I'm going to introduce a man who also sees big changes on the horizon for Florida. When I was told I'd be introducing President Mayfield, like a good millennial, I Googled him. And I found a piece that he wrote on Medium, his 2018 resolutions for Florida. And I want to read an excerpt to you, because I think it really tells us what kind of man is leading FPSU. This year, the Republican leadership's New Year resolution must be to mock workers. As they continue to do nothing to raise the minimum wage while items like housing, childcare, and other everyday necessities rise at alarming rates. All the while, they are focused on ripping apart workers' rights on the job. If we have learned anything in the last 20 years, it is that the decisions we make will have lasting effects for years to come. It is beyond time for our representatives in Florida to focus on the issues that matter to all of us, regardless of political party affiliation, influence, and socioeconomic status. My resolution for 2018 is to demand our leaders work for a new, better vision for Florida that works for all and not just the powerful few. If we don't demand a direction and vision that reflects who we are and what we need in this moment, the next 20 years will be more of the same and keep Florida dead last. Please join me in welcoming the president of our union, because y'all are gonna win, Florida Public Services Union.
Thank you, Cheryl. I want to start off by saying I want to give a shout out and honor our HCC members. They have been kicking ass and taking names, even before it was cool. They have faced adversity and have walked into the darkness of the unknown to build the first adjunct contract in Florida and a firm foundation in the floor. And they have done it walking along with people in the community, 5 for 15 and others. And they have been unbelievably brave, unbelievably smart, and more importantly, unbelievably tough. So I just want to take a moment and just say thank you. We don't hear it enough directly to you, but we do talk about you in that way in staff meetings, just so that you know. So the first thing I want to do, because most people don't know me, some do, is I want to give you a couple of, I want to frame how I'm going to talk and kind of who I am. So I'm someone, and Melanie and David and others can also attest to this, I do not sugarcoat things, I do not sell you hope and wishes and dreams. Very blunt, very stern. Is that not correct, Mom? Painfully correct, she said. So let me tell you where we are today. We're in between two goalposts. And one goalpost is the historic moment that you are in as adjuncts in this state. You all are organizing for power, you all are building organization and bringing people into a unit. That's at one end of the field. The other end of the field is one of the most volatile, insecure, crazy, nutty, weird moments in this nation's history. And that's what the next 15 years is going to look like. The reason why I want to frame it in those terms is I want to be stark and clear where we are and what we're getting into. But I also want to say this. The people who are in this room and the people who you stand side to side with or conference call to conference call with or computer to computer with are the people who you are with in this fight. And if you are in this fight in this moment, you are supposed to be in this fight in this moment. And the reason why I want to say that is that there are times that you may not know that. There are times when you may be alone. There are times when you're going to be phone banking and reaching out to people and you're like, why in the hell am I doing this? I'm saying it now because that is why. The thing about volatility, even though it's bad and it makes you feel weird and it makes you feel really insecure, is that at no other time, at least in my lifetime and in many others' lifetime, have the social institutions been as weak as they are now. And when these institutions are weak, when the power structure is as flexible as it is, that's when you can make positive change. The thing that I say to our members and to our staff all the time is two anecdotes. One is, in the land of darkness, the one that has a match light worth of light is the most important person in that situation. You all have more than a match light, you have a lantern. And it's dark outside. And that light comes from within you, and it's our moment to lead. Not only just for adjuncts, but for all workers. And to stand with the other members of FPSU to be able to build power for workers in this state, and to be a model for the rest of the country. Let's talk a little bit about volatility. So what's the volatility? You have the tax bill, you have 2 government shutdowns, you have the Florida legislature, which is basically saying that, hey, you might form a union, but if you don't have 50% membership, you're screwed. Pardon the, I speak plain, but so forgive me, right? Those are the things that they tell you. So over the course, I've been in Florida almost 10 years, and we've gone through several of these fights. And I'll be honest with you, about 3 years ago, I woke up one morning and I said, I'm tired of the anxiety. I'm tired of worrying about my members from the perspective of, do I have the ability to be able to lead in this moment, and can our institution survive? And how do we manage a decline? I woke up 3 years ago and said that, and I said, I'm not gonna say what I actually said. But what I said was, forget it. David know what I said, that's why he laughed. So, what I said in that moment was this: forget it. We are committing as an institution to survive regardless of the circumstances. So I'm going to say that again because I think it's really important. As an institution, we are committed to survive and thrive. It's not enough to survive. You can't make a better future if you just survive. And you aren't organizing to just survive. You're organizing to thrive. You're organizing to beat a path to the future, not only just for yourself, but for the teachers that are going to come after you, and for your kids, and for your grandkids. That is why you're doing this. And there are times when it does not feel like that. But that is a lie. If you're a person of faith, it's trick of the devil. If you're not a person of faith, it's bad stuff, whatever it is. Okay? I'm just telling you, that is a lie. So what is required of you in this moment? Well, a couple of things. When you think about building power, it actually all doesn't come at once. And I'm actually going to tell you something I wasn't going to say, but I'm going to say it. Like it's an acronym that I use for our team to kind of talk about. I'm all about summarizing things to a fine point, because I have ADD. Can't remember all this stuff, so I just summarize to a fine point. But when you think about building power, it all doesn't happen at one time. Like anything, any good thing. If this was easy, you would have did it already. If we knew a financial path for it, it would have happened already. But just because something isn't easy doesn't necessarily mean it's hard. Doesn't mean it's impossible. It means that you have to commit and wade around in the uncertainty, in the fear, and in the unknown, and allow yourself to wash over you and feel it. Not so that you can be defeated by it, so that you can come to know it, understand it, and say, here is the opportunity in this confusion. So if you think about the phases of building power, the organizing phase is the first part. And for many of you, that's where you are. You're taking a view of the landscape, and you're saying, how do we come together, and how do we actually build? But organizing isn't about getting the ability to collectively bargain. That's just a lever. When we get past that part at your school, Cheryl said it, and I'm going to say it again. I'm actually saying it. Say it again, say it loud.
Organizing never stops.
The organizing never stops. So I'm going to say it again. I would ask you to repeat after me. The organizing never stops. Give it a shot.
The organizing never stops.
Say it one more time.
The organizing never stops.
Okay. And here's why this is important. When you get the right to collectively bargain, okay, there may be a bill that passes that says that your union is decertified legally if you're under 50%. Okay, so what do? You keep it
Organized.
You gotta organize. They may pass something to say you can only negotiate about X, Y, and Z and blah, 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 blah. What do?
Organize.
You organize. You begin building your union. And we're your union, you're part of our family. It's a brief family reunion, meeting some of y'all for the first time, very happy to hear that. But you build your house with a blueprint. You build your union with a blueprint. We talk a lot in our local about end game. I know Joey steals that and talks about it all the time. He got that from me. So, just want you to understand that. So, we talk a lot about end game. And what that is you have to say in very clear terms, very plain terms, this is what I'm doing. It's not just enough to get a contract. We want a union. We want a vast majority of members in the union. We want people paying coat. We want people engaged. We want workers to speak with one voice. We want them to be heard. We want to be able to have the leverage and the agency to be able to decide our fate. You want a clear end game. And you put that up on the wall, not because it's hokey, but because you're like me, you have ADD. Sometimes you need to look at the wall and remember what you were doing it for. Because stuff, they'll flim-flam in and gets confused. You talk to some of these people from HR, and you'll be like, what in the world's going on? You need to look at that and you need to remind yourself what you are building and what you're building toward, because it all doesn't come in one fell swoop. It comes in steps, it comes piece by piece, it comes brick by brick. It comes conversation by conversation. It comes fight by fight. And if you're talking about the phases of building power and building a contract, I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna be faced with some hard choices, some hard dichotomies. Let me give you an example. When you go in to negotiate your first contract, and all of you will, you're really negotiating two things. You're building provisions of the contract, and that's about raises, and that's about things that are really important. But you're also helping to build the institution of the union. So how the employer will lie to you is they'll come to you and they'll say, and this never happens, this is a hyperbolic example, so just, this is a hyperbolic example, okay? They may come to you one time and say, hey, we're gonna give you a 40% raise. Okay? That's why I did it, just so that you understand I'm not being serious, but they may tell you that. But then they'll say, but you don't have no new employee orientation language. You have no access to other adjuncts. You have none of these rights that it takes to build the institution of the union. So what will happen is, let's say you get that 40%, let's say you accept that. And let's say your attrition rate is 20% a year. It means that in 3 years, you've lost 60% of your union, and when they come back to you and say, hey, we've hit hard times on the budget, we gotta take all that away from you, you have no power. It is a trap, it is a lie, it's been done to us for generations. Do not fall for that trap. When you build power, you have to build the institution of the union. And the institution of the union is not a building somewhere. The institution of the union is you. It is you and the people who work with you to help facilitate and build power. It is adjuncts, it is bus drivers, it is Head Start employees, it is municipal employees who said, you know what? We don't understand how we're going to organize this particular group of workers. We're going to put our resources behind it to figure it out, because you know what? If they have power, they help us build power, we're going to back them. What does that mean? That is unbelievably powerful. To look into the humanity of someone else that does a completely different job and look completely different than you, and them saying, I'm backing your play because I want you to have a better life and provide for your family. That is who we are as a union. And we're not perfect, we're like any family. Sometimes we argue, sometimes we fight, we curse a lot, okay? A lot, a whole lot, right? I'm an introvert, I'm hard to deal with, it's a thing, but the whole point of it is this. The one thing is that we love each other, and we back each other, and we believe, core part of who we are as FPSU, is that if you want to build power for workers, you have to build power for communities. It means that if you want to build power for workers, you have to build power for people, and that somebody is important, not only the hours they spend on their job, but when they go home. and that you have to be a place for them, whether they are black, white, Asian, Latino, alien, whatever. This has to be a place where you can bring the fullness of yourself into this institution. When you go to negotiate your contract, when you are organizing now, how you organize, how you convene, how you bring people together, that's what you're organizing for. It's not for a piece of paper. Piece of papers can be burned up. They can legislate that out of existence. They cannot legislate relationships out of existence. This is about the relationships that you build with each other. That is the true power. And the divisiveness that we have in our politics that's the reason for it. Because it's to keep us apart and to keep us from seeing our common interests in each other. So the acronym that I use it with our staff, but also with our executive board, and I think you were at our board meeting, so you heard me say this about 15 times, is MPL. Okay, David's writing that down. So MPL. MPL stands for money, power, leverage. Everything that we do is about MPL. It's about money, power, leverage. And if I was going to flip that, I would turn money into resources, power into agency, and leverage into influence. You are right now at the most important phase. You are making a decision on how you want to structure building power going forward. Do not get confused by the lies of the employer. No. Because they're going to try to divide. It all comes down to those three things. Do we have the resources we need to fight? Do we have the agency and the ability to decide what we want to fight on and where we focus and be able to make decisions? And can we create the leverage to be able to force them to do things that they don't want to do? That is our guiding philosophy. That is what we do. That's why you're here today. You're laying the groundwork to lay the foundation to do that. And so if you leave today and you go home and you go into your shops and you have conversations and you say, there was this weird fat guy talking and he said all this stuff. Okay. If you don't remember anything else, remember that. Remember two things. Remember MPL, and remember the most important resource that you have in this fight is the people standing around you. Okay? And let me also give you just one point of privilege, and I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay. So here's the thing, and I'm saying this from the perspective of local, and all locals are different. Okay? Is that also understand and know that when you talk to people all over the universe, right, who also sometimes operate in this space, but they don't operate in Florida, they may not completely understand the context of what we're doing and who we are. So trust should be earned always, and you have to do it through time, but you have to come into the relationship from a place of saying, how do I work with you to build common power, and how do I see you as a person first? And so with that, I'm gonna close. I'm gonna say I'm unbelievably excited. I'm gonna say if we were to determine our end game, and we were to say 15 years from now, and I actually did this with, I think at a staff meeting one time, where I said, if we reconvene this group in 15 years, and you were gonna say, here's the end game that you laid out for your unit and for yourself, what would it be? And I would ask you to write it down, and I would ask you to hold on to it and not throw it away. Because you need to look at it to remind you, to anchor you in the fight as it goes on. You guys are making history, and you're making history and you're making waves at a period in time when you have the greatest ability to have impact. Do not take this lightly. Do not take lightly how you set up and design your institution. Your institution will only be as powerful as you set it up to be. Create something that will long live past you. Create something that you can grow. Create something that's reflective of who you are and reflective of inclusiveness and a spirit of building power for anybody who works a job in Florida. So with that, I say thank you, and I look forward to hanging out with you today.
I could spend less time at work and more time with my kids as an adjunct, right? I knew it was an oppressive situation for a lot of people, but for the current situation that I was in, it was a lot better. Didn't take me long to realize that that was a huge falsehood. There were two huge things that happened for me as an adjunct that sort of led me to this situation and made me realize I needed to get my butt out there and start trying to change things for adjuncts all across the country. The first was that I taught an online class for the department that I graduated from. There were about 250 students in the class, and I thought it was weird that I didn't have a TA, but I didn't think too much of it, right? Because I think that's what they do to us. But in the last week of classes, the graduate student that was supposed to be my TA came to me and she said, "There was some kind of department miscommunication, I'm supposed to be your TA." So when I went to the department and I was like, what is going on? I feel a little bit exploited by this, even though I realized it was probably a mistake. And the chair, who actually was on my committee, so I felt comfortable being open with her, told me that I was being unprofessional and there were no more classes for me to teach there. The second thing was teaching classes through having a miscarriage. As you all know, at a lot of the institutions across Florida, you don't get paid when you miss class. So I woke up one morning, I basically knew what was happening. I was told by my care providers that I should stay home and rest. But my family just really could not afford that. I had to go to work that day. So I taught at two different schools, one in Dade City, one in Ruskin. So if you're familiar with the Tampa Bay area, those are hundreds of miles apart. And I probably came in contact with about 200 students that day. Seriously, I was not at my best, should not have had to do that. It wasn't fair to me or my students. And at that point, I was pissed, really pissed. And right around the same time, a good friend of mine from grad school started organizing with SEIU. So she knew what I was going through. She knew what happened. We had actually shared an office in grad school, and she was like, "You need to come out." So I finally did. Sorry. So I went to a meeting, like a small little meeting with like 5 or 6 adjuncts, and we marched with Fight for 15, right? Because really we're all in the same boat. They're lifted, we're lifted. If we are lifted, they'll be lifted. We planned events to raise awareness across the Bay. We did a sit-in and a banner drop at USF. We were asked to leave by campus police. We dressed up in regalia and held signs and handed out flyers to students at HCC Brandon. We were asked to leave by campus security. And we marched some more with Fight for 15. I don't know if we could have done this without them. And then SEIU asked us if we wanted to unionize HCC, and we were like, hell yes! Right? Because every adjunct that we spoke to while we were trying to raise awareness was like, we want concrete solutions. We want a union. So when SEIU offered that to us, how could we have resisted? We just could not say no. Right? So a handful of us signed some cards from all across the Bay Area at every single school that we worked at. We did classroom visits. We did adjunct office visits, and we even did home visits to get our colleagues to sign cards. Eric Fisk and Mark Castricone and I went to the SEIU convention in Detroit. We got to meet with about 70 faculty from all across the country that were in various stages of organizing, a lot like we're doing today. We returned home so inspired and so energized. We were ready for the fight. We knew what we were actually facing now. We were ready for the boss fight, and there were several at HCC. They mailed letters to people's houses. They opened every meeting with adjuncts urging us to vote no for the union. They held information sessions where they peddled misinformation about the union and our efforts, and finally, In an unprecedented move, the deans began calling adjuncts at their home to encourage them to vote no.
Oh my God.
HCC fought hard, but we fought even harder, and we won our union almost 2-1. And even though we haven't finished negotiating our first contract yet, that's a whole other fight, right? The organizing never stops, y'all. Okay. I have still seen the power of a union. This semester, I realized they were paying me less for one of my classes. The difference between when I emailed HR and when Joey Brenner from FBSU emailed HR was stark. Right? The response that I got was, there must have been a mistake, you need to contact the dean's office. We all know what a wild goose chase that would have been, right? When Joey contacted them, I had an apology from the head of HR and a very thorough explanation from somebody in payroll about exactly what happened and how they were going to fix it within like an hour. That's the power of a union. A couple months before we won our election to become the first adjunct union, Eric and I and Beth traveled to Richmond for the first Fight for 15 national convention. It was really powerful to be surrounded by people in so many different industries. The solidarity that we witnessed was incredible. And because we came together across industries, thousands of us marched on downtown Richmond. The solidarity we've seen in Fight for 15 is their strength. And it's why we've started to hear politicians use this as part of their platform, a $15 minimum wage, right? And the reason I bring this up is because we need to not only support them, but learn from them. We are better together. When we come together, we win. So it's important that as we all organize in our individual metro areas, we support each other. Okay.
No silos.
Yes, no silos. If it's a big boss fight, come stand with the people that are in your area. If it's a really big boss fight, go across the state. Right? When we come together, we win. The administration knows how powerful we'll be if we all unionize together, and that is why they're fighting us so hard. They know the power that we can harness, and they know that we can turn Florida around.